If you're looking for a trusted source to help you stay on top of the ever-changing financial world of investing, retirement and estate planning, and asset protection, whether it's for you and your family or your small business, you're in the right place. This is the 1715 Treasure Coast Financial Wellness Podcast, where we'll keep you up to speed with the latest market news and conditions every week. Now, here's your host, Thomas Davies.
Well, welcome to another episode of the 1715 Treasure Coast Financial Wellness Podcast. My name is Thomas Davies. I'm a wealth advisor here in Stuart, Florida, and welcome to the podcast. Lots to talk about today. We have a very special guest, Michael Freese from USHEALTH Advisors. He's going to be talking about everything healthcare. That is going to be an interesting interview as everything has risen in the costs of everything. And so healthcare certainly is one of them. As a recession potentially may loom, healthcare is certainly going to be a concern if you get laid off. I can tell you that speaking to him that I learned a few new things, and hopefully it will be beneficial to you. So some news of the week, the FTX fallout continues. We'll see where all this lands. Very interesting interview on CNBC with the former CEO. And the question is, was he lying? He certainly seems like he lied to a lot of people and stole a lot of money. So we'll see how that continues. The markets ended positive for November. So that was a big lift to see a little bit of the positive in the markets. The last couple of days here, we have retreated back a little bit, but it looks like we're treading that 200-day moving average right at 4050 on the S&P 500. So that's a big technical that we broke through when we had the big rally there. So pretty much that's going to be it for news. It was kind of a slow news week, other than we had jobs reports today. It's showing growth, and that's maybe the sell-off. The consensus is the Fed is still going to raise rates. Now maybe 50 basis points on December 14th. We'll see. Could be 75. I don't think that would be a shock to the system, but with Fed Chairman Powell's comments this week, they seem to be a little more dovish, and hence why we had the big rally on Wednesday. So we'll see. We'll see how those things play out. We have a great show for you here today, like I said, with Michael, learning about health insurance. I can tell you that if you do not have your health, that you do not have your wealth. You can have all the money in the world, and if you're not well enough to enjoy it, it just doesn't matter. So, one of the things we like to do here is make sure that, everything is covered, whether it be life insurance, health insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, whatever that need may be, and especially if it's in a financial manner. That's what we do here at Davies Wealth Management. As a financial advisor, we can advise you on those things, or we can get you in front of the experts that are going to be, and I should say trusted experts, that are going to help advise you the right way with no prejudice as we do, or no conflicts of interest, and steer you in the right direction for whatever your best interests are. I still shake my head every time I think about the fiduciary rule. I am a fiduciary, and I just shake my head that they had to pass a law to put clients' best interests first. It's just, I don't know, moral fiber, maybe, the way that I was raised. But if you do business for someone, you want to put their best interests first. And so that's just the way things are. But interesting outlook, ready for the weekend. I hope everyone had a nice holiday last week here in the U.S. I know we have a few international listeners. Happy Turkey Day for everyone. And now the rush is on for the holidays and the end of the year. Will we get that Santa Claus rally? I think it's treading water right now, and we'll see how things look. This number today was pretty promising that, we're looking more of a soft landing. The Dow is actually only about down 5 or 6% year to date. The S&P has come back to being down only 15%, and the Nasdaq is still in bear territory, over 20%, about 24% down year to date. We have been calling for a long time that a correction was needed. 15% is a correction. If we end up year to date down 15%, we'll see how that goes. We'll get that, probably get that Santa Claus rally towards the end of the year. Nice little bump. We got through the elections since the last time I was here. Did take a couple weeks off for the holidays, and for those of you that reached out and was wondering where I was at, well, we didn't go into hiding. Just took a couple weeks off from the podcast, and look forward to having some new guests. I am going to have Richard Karpelis, our CPA, that we work with here. He will be on the show in the next week or two. He's been dealing with year-end things on his end for his clients, and as we get towards the end of the year, it becomes busy. So a couple quick questions as we get towards the end of the year. Is your advisor asking you to do a year-end review? It's been a tough year. There's been a lot of losers, just very few winners. And, it may be time to reallocate that portfolio as we go into 2023, 24. I did hear something that I thought really made a lot of sense this week on one of the shows, and that was that as we go into a high inflation, you go short duration, and if you go into low inflation, then you're going to go to long duration, meaning like growth. So the question is, are we going to stay at high inflation? That 8% is a CPI number when that comes out. Will it continue to trend lower? If that's the case, and according to this statement, then you should be going longer duration, meaning more growth as inflation tends to go down. So we'll see how that plays out over the next couple weeks and months, and look forward to 2023. Once again, 2022 has been certainly a choppy year. Everyone that I speak to from in the institutions consider 2023 another choppy year in the markets, as we still are dealing with 2 more years of the Biden presidency, and certainly as we get into 2023, the rhetoric will certainly start ramping up, and we'll see. Elon Musk made some waves. There's some news there. Just trying to think of some things off the top of my head. Took over Twitter, fired whole bunch of people, and screamed at Apple and Tim Cook, the CEO, if you didn't hear. And apparently there was a phone call and all things were worked out. One thing that was revealed that is a not so insider secret is that how Apple charges on their apps. And from my understanding is that Congress is looking into this because it's just one of those monopolized items that Apple has. Is Apple a growth or a value play? I think it's a great question, as we haven't seen a lot of innovation out of Apple lately with new products other than what they're doing to their current phones with the iPhone 14. But certainly their Apple services have been, Apple Music, etc. But we'll see. We'll see what their innovation will be, and we'll keep that on tap. So with that, with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Michael Freese onto the show, and we're going to talk a little bit of health insurance. All right, Michael, let's go. Well, good afternoon, Michael, and thank you for being on the show today. Michael Freese is with USHEALTH Advisors, and we are going to talk about everything health insurance. So, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Thomas. Great pleasure being here with you. I appreciate what you do, and I look at you as a mentor like anybody else. Especially with financial advising.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, in the world of health insurance, we're going to have a lot of questions, and hopefully we'll get some comments here. And also too, we're we don't just stay specific to Florida. We got a lot of listeners all across the country. So we'll try to be a little general and not so specific to Florida. But some of the top questions that we're getting is, what, Michael, coming to you, what's the most common way to get health insurance?
Honestly, what most Americans actually do here, and I help with every single situation, but it's usually through your job. Most people work in a 9 to 5. They get coverage through their employer. It's super easy to sign up, but for a lot of Americans, once they do, go out on their own, or they start their own business, or they become like a travel nurse, or as a truck driver, where you don't get those benefits offered to you, you don't get dental, health, vision insurance, that stuff offered. You're kind of out there, in the desert almost. You got to try to find the best water to drink from. And that's where I just come into play. I want to make sure that you get the best plan for the best price. And my opportunity in at least the health insurance world is really, I can look at every single plan and really every single carrier out there. So, we can find what that best water is. If you're stranded out in the desert, we need to look for what can you use on a day-to-day basis, and what's obviously going to protect you long term. But that would be what most people do is, hey, what can I do to look at health coverage across the board, and try to find the best plan.
Gotcha. So, when someone's self-employed like that, they're going to reach out to you, and you're going to be able to guide them and just, so we understand that, if someone already has health insurance through their employer, you're actually able to look at that plan and say, gee, is this the best plan for you? So, if I work at a large company and, and I got my plan through my employer, I may still want to call you and have you take a look at my benefits to make sure that what I'm paying for is still a great benefit. And there may be something else out there, that's offered that may be better for me and my family.
Exactly. The main people I help out are people that don't have it yet because their employer doesn't give it to them. Or on the contrary, they think for a second that they're overpaying. For example, like I just helped out a client. This was last Friday. Apparently, their employer coverage for her, the son, and obviously her husband was over $1,500. They're in their mid-30s, very young individuals. It should not be over $1,500 a month. Now, the employer was pitching in half, but $700 is still a lot of money just for a group of 3 people. We were able to find a preferred rate. So sometimes employer coverage is not always the best bet, especially if you work in, more hazardous applications, or certain guidelines are established, where, hey, I'll cover just the employee. The employer says, employer's like, hey, I'll cover you, Stacy. You're a good employee to me. But Stacy, if you want to add on your husband and your kids, you're going to have to pay full price. These plans are really good plans.
And I know, one of the things that, there's an old saying is price is what you pay, quality is what you get. So what, when people are looking at health insurance, a lot of times they're looking, for the most affordable, cheapest health insurance. And sometimes that's not always the best option. Even though it's the cheapest, it doesn't give you the best and roundabout coverages. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's like everything in life, and I use a lot of analogies with the car industry. We've all bought a car sometime in our life. Same thing goes with health insurance. But, if you're getting something that's really cheap, it might be cheap for a reason, and it's like buying a Ferrari. If somebody promises a Ferrari to you and you only have to pay $20,000 for this Ferrari, you're probably going to question, hey, is there a Ferrari engine in the car?
Yeah,
Hey,
it turns out to be a Fiero.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cost is a lot of things in this business, and we try to utilize how to get the most efficient plan for costs. But if you want something, the cheapest thing out there, I guess something that would just be the lowest quality, we can find something if that's something they're really struggling. But like anything, it's good to invest in. And I'm sure that you're pretty aware of that, Thomas.
Yeah, and for our listeners out there, some of them, are on a budget, and really they're, trying to stay within their budgets. As we know, everything has gotten more expensive. Just go to the grocery store, the gas station, and it's putting a little more dent in your wallet. So one of the things that, we look at as an advisor, is
Mhm.
getting with a health insurance expert like yourself, and
Mhm.
making sure that they have those coverages. Because ironically, one of the biggest bankruptcies, that you can go bankrupt with is your health.
Exactly.
And I always point to Steve Jobs, like, here's a
Mhm.
guy with all the most money in the world, and unfortunately he died, a sick man. So,
Mhm.
one of the things too, is, on average, and now this is maybe a little more pertain to Florida, but the
Mhm.
average cost of a health insurance plan. So let's say, a family of four, or even,
Mhm.
a newlywed couple just starting out, who's going to need coverage. What are some of those prices that we're seeing here in Florida, and some of the coverages, not
Yeah.
necessarily the coverages, but the price for a standard plan that's going to get you the basics?
For sure. So like retail prices on a lot of plans, this is a good analogy. If you want the retail price of a regular plan, whatever your age is, let's just say 30 year old, right? If you wanted to find a plan that was pretty decent plan, not something that's cheap, but if you want to find a decent plan, just multiply your age by about 10. Okay. So you're 56, right? Times that by 10, and your plans, usually most plans would be just around $600 a month. Okay. For me, I'm in my 20s right now. So times my age, 21, times it by 10. If I could find a plan around $210, that's a pretty decent plan. Um,
Yes.
that's
So
an analogy that I use, and
no, that's a great analogy.
yeah.
And so
Mhm.
just to repeat that, you
Mhm.
take your age
Mhm.
and you multiply it by 10. And
Mhm.
that is going to be, around what your health insurance coverage a month should cost.
And those
Uh,
are retail price tags too. So like if let's just say, and that's what having a health advisor is here, because I know how to cut that times 10, maybe down to, cut $50 off that, or cut $100 or a couple thousand on some cases, you know, cutting that cost down, especially if you're on Cobra or something, that's my job. Some people, if they're lower income, you mentioned, people are struggling at the gas station, right? Or struggling at the grocery store buying groceries. If you're self-employed, or you're thinking, hey, I'm overpaying for this right now, I don't think I can keep it in my budget. Literally, there's stuff out there that you can utilize certain tax codes, and that's the same. That's why you have me, be able to give you those kind of advice and really try to point you in the right direction. It's no different than, Thomas, you, for example, you know, picking the portfolios that would work with the client's expectations. It's no different than me. Tell me, what are you trying to solve? And we'll try to figure out what's going to be the best option for them.
Yeah,
So
and I don't think, Michael, that most people realize that they can shop their employer plans.
mhm,
I think, most people think, well, I've got an employer, and you'd probably
mhm,
agree that most employer plans are probably going to be most beneficial because they're group plans, and they're
yeah,
going to have, from a premium standpoint, probably lower premiums because of the group policies. Um,
mhm,
but one of the things too, you mentioned Cobra, and there's going to be, unfortunately, if we do go into a recession, which a
mhm,
lot of the economists are talking about, there's going to be layoffs.
mhm,
And so talk about Cobra a little bit and how that
yeah.
works. And people, Cobra's expensive, and so
Oh, damn
people
right.
that are coming out of the those employer plans,
Mhm,
generally will have Cobra. If they know that they've got 2 weeks because they've got that letter, of termination, when should
mhm.
they reach out to you? And should they go into Cobra, or just say, hey, look, let me give Michael a call, and I don't have to pay that huge premium of Cobra? Tell me how that
Mhm.
works.
For sure. And goes back to kind of your mindset when it comes to certain things. There's really two things that go through your brain. Number one, I think that the business might quit, fire me, or I might have to move positions just to protect my future. You can be proactive with certain things, and you can be reactive with certain things. I encourage, at least with health insurance, to always be proactive. At least know what the options are going to be out there. So, hey, if by the first of the year, this is December 2nd today. By the first of the year, I have a good idea and prepare for this type of things, because some plans can take upwards to 2 or 3 weeks to get approved on some things. To be proactive, plan ahead, especially if you're thinking, hey, I might get taken off of my employer plan, or hey, you know what, I just got fired last week. I need to find a new plan by January 1st. That's how long they're going to keep me on. Don't get me wrong, Cobra is an amazing coverage plan if you can afford it. It gives you the same coverage. It's super easy. You just roll it over to the Cobra plan. Same exact plan, same exact doctors that you can go to, same type of co-pays when you go to the pharmacy. Everything's going to be the exact same. The only difference is going to be the cost. And that cost can be 3-4 times as much as you're paying right now, and you have no idea.
Yeah, and Michael, so with that, is there any health insurances that are free in the state of Florida? Like, I mean, obviously, someone who has no money can go on Medicaid and apply for that. But is there any other place, like, if they, let's say, just don't have a lot of money, is there income limits and things like that for certain coverages? And maybe we would talk a little bit about that, on how that works as far as incomes and and health coverages, because once again, we've got a big demographic of listeners, from people who are just starting out to people who are well off and in retirement.
Yeah, people making 20,000 versus 2 million a year, right? There's those spectrums. A common misconception for a lot of Americans out there is I'm gonna work off both sides. Let's just first start with the easy side, people that are making way too much money where they can almost self-insure. Right. If there's no reason why you make so much money that insurances won't offer you coverage. That is completely bogus. If anybody's told you that, you can always qualify for a certain plan and be able to get the coverage that you need without having to overpay. Sometimes when you get to that spectrum of income, you don't really realize the difference between a $2,000 bill every month versus a $1,100 bill every month. It just kind of gets washed up and over things.
Sure.
Now that's the I guess more expensive on that kind of spectrum of things. Now let's talk about what's going to be most relevant to a lot of Americans out there. It's going to be anywhere from around that $20,000 to $70,000 range of income. If you're claiming that type of income, especially if you have a family and you do not get employer coverage offered to you, there's going to be a lot of things that you can utilize. Now, the cost of things is really dependent on a couple things: where you're located, how many people are in the family, how old everybody's in the family, and obviously what kind of income you're expected to bring in gross wise throughout the year. A lot of self-employed people, they write off a lot on their taxes, right? And when they write off a lot on their taxes, they're showing a lot less net income that gets taxed. But for insurance, at least, it's going to be the gross income. I know it's a little bit more technical than what's needed, but the gross income is usually what they're going to work off.
Well, it's important, and we're going to have our CPA on here in the next week or two. We're trying to get them on, and we're going to talk everything taxes, and certainly that health insurance component is definitely an important part.
And it's a tax write-off too. If you're a business owner, self-employed, if you're not writing off for insurance, let me find you a plan that can. Let me see if your plan can even get written off on your taxes. That's why, at least, when it comes to everybody's situation, some people qualify for free plans. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Some people qualify, just based off of their disability, like they hurt their back, they qualify for Medicaid. No, don't think that, hey, just because I'm low income, I need to go apply for Medicaid. Because for most cases, you don't get accepted. It's a pretty rigorous process trying to go through Medicaid. And the ability to find the right doctors, the most qualified doctors, that's what a lot of people don't think about. Right. Hey, I could go to some doctor on this free health insurance plan. Somebody offered you a free, pair of, foot pops. Are you going to remember where they're at in a year from now? Probably not, but if you go buy those $300-400, I guess python leather, snake, snake skin type things, you're going to know exactly where they're at all times.
Yep. And Michael, one other thing too, and I always joke with my clients that, I'm only married to one person, and that's my wife, and I'm not married to any investment. I imagine, like yourself, you're probably not any particular health care company that, it's based on what's best for the client, to choose from. And, so how do they go about choosing what healthcare provider is better for them? And, we're bombarded with ads from all the different insurance providers.
Yeah.
So how is that decision process made of what's best for the client, whether it be, and I don't like to name providers or certain products,
Yeah.
but some of the bigger ones that are out there. And how do we decide which is best and what company is best to go with? How does that process work?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. There's going to be one thing that really matters. Okay. Are your doctors in network? Really? I mean, it's the name is pretty irrelevant, but we want to make sure that your doctors are in network, the ones that you go to on a daily basis.
Gotcha.
If you go see a cardiologist, I want to make sure that doctor's in network. Also, too, there's going to be kind of three branches of what all carriers use. So if that's going to be an HMO plan, an EPO plan, or a PPO plan. Now, EPOs are very limited on your doctors. And when it comes to the doctors that you do utilize out there, it's really important to get a large range. Because if you needed to go get that, let's just say eye surgery where they had to, take your, had to do LASIK. Do you want to go to some schmo down the street that's been doing the practice for a year and a half? Or do you want to go to the finest doctor out there and be able to get 50 years of experience on yourself, right? We only have one life. As you said, Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, had all the, money in the world, it seemed like at that time. But you know what? Still, health is wealth at the end of the day. Health is wealth.
Yeah, if you don't have it, you don't have anything. And so you mentioned, some of these acronyms, EPO, PPO, HMO, not to dive too far down the rabbit hole there, but just, maybe you could explain to our listeners the difference between an HMO, a PPO, and an EPO, and what other something O that maybe we're not familiar with.
Yeah. So PPOs are going to be the strongest out there. You really have the opportunity to go to any doctor anywhere in the country. It doesn't just work for just Florida, but you can go anywhere in the country. Okay. Those are PPOs. Now HMOs are only going to work in where you reside at. So if you live in Ohio, only works in Ohio. Only live in Florida, you only can use it in Florida, unless it's life threatening. If you're dying on a stretcher in California, obviously they're going to be able to take you. Okay. But HMOs, you have really limited network of doctors to choose from. You usually can use it anywhere in the state. The only difference, though, is if you want to go see a specialist, let's just say my skin was breaking out with acne and I wanted to go see a dermatologist. I would have to go to my regular doctor, my PCP, primary care physician, and get a referral out to that doctor. If my shoulder was hurting and I thought, man, this might be a precursor for a stroke, I would have to go to my main doctor and they would have to refer me out to a cardiologist. You see where a problem can be at, with HMOs. Sometimes it can take a week. Who knows what will happen.
Yeah,
now, EPOs.
That's okay. No, we've seen it take longer than that for that referral process. Anybody who's had to go through it, I think knows that it can sometimes, like you said, be weeks on end before you're able to get into somebody. And I'm sorry, you were going to go ahead and talk about the EPO.
Yeah, so elephant for E. But yeah, EPOs are like, well, you got about 50-mile radius of what doctors you can choose from. You don't need to get referrals to go to these doctors. It's just that you're going to have so limited of doctors to choose from. You could probably only go to maybe one or two, or if you live out in the country, you might only have one doctor that you can go to for your cardiology. And you got to put all your trust on that doctor and make sure that he's doing his job right. It's not something I would ever recommend. EPOs, quite frankly, they're cheap. They're a little bit less expensive, but when it comes to dire situations, you're going to want to have the finest care. But those are going to be the three main ways: PPOs, HMOs, and then EPOs. EPOs I would recommend over everything.
And then just one quick last question, because a lot of the listeners, they may go on cruises and travel abroad. How does that work internationally with some of these plans? And like I said, not to go too far, but with specifics. But if, let's say I decide to take the family vacation to to Europe, London or Italy, and and I get sick over there, is my or any of my HMO, PPOs, or anything like that, what do I need to make sure that I get coverage?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So usually with employer plans, they're going to offer what's called international insurance. International insurance is something that you just pay for however long you're going to be on vacation for. But employer plans usually offer that, the ones you get through your job. Now, if you're on your own and you got to figure out can I get insurance when I'm going on my 2-week vacation to Spain, those plans out there are going to be what are under big branch companies, and I can just help you out with that. Super easy, doesn't cost a whole lot of money either. Really just kind of protects you because, I mean, every country does it differently. For example, Canada, right? Canada has free health coverage up there, but you have to wait a super long time to get into a doctor. Every country is differently, but if you get travelers insurance, you should not have to worry about that, to answer your question.
Gotcha. No, that's great. So, so if someone, just to repeat it, so if someone has an employer plan and they're going to travel internationally, they may want to contact their human resource department to make sure international coverage is set. That's super important. Even like you said, going up into Canada, our neighbors to the north there, you want to make sure that you have some coverage there. So Michael, is there anything else? We tried to touch a couple different points across the board. Or is there anything, I always like to say, is there anything that we missed or that you could think of to add here at the end that maybe we didn't touch upon?
Yeah, so like when it comes to health insurance, at least, it's going to be one of those things. It's like any other thing. It's from like getting a mortgage for your house, it's having a financial advisor, or any kind of advisor for that matter. Health insurance is a very interesting place. So if you are self-employed out there, a small business owner, and you do wonder, hey, can I qualify for something? Have I not, I don't have coverage right now because I just think it's too expensive. If you think that right now, give an opportunity or just give me a call and I can be able to express the opportunity out to you and say, hey, this is going to be their options. I don't get paid by the hour like lawyers do. I just able to assist you on which plan you decide to go with. And then that's when we can actually make a decision. Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point you brought up. I'd like to kind of stop you there for a second, because that was probably a question someone would ask. It would be, how do you get paid?
Yeah.
Am I paying you out of pocket? Are you getting paid by the insurance company? How does that work?
Yeah. So basically, whatever insurance company we decide to go with, you just get a referral off of that. Pretty self-explanatory. And then I come with the policy as well. So that's where a lot of people get misconcepted. Like, hey, I'm having some troubles with my insurance, and just call the number on the back. No, I want you saved in my phone. We can call me up, but I can give you the best opportunity to save money on your health coverage. Because, guys, we're going to be around the bush. It gets expensive sometimes for a lot of Americans.
Yeah, for sure. And so you become their dedicated health advisor. So that's great, because I think, once again, people that have called that 800 number or 888 number on the back, it seems like it would be an eternity and can be frustrating. And so you can kind of help make sense of some of the noise and direct them in the right places where they need to go.
Yeah, of course. Like, hey, hey, is this doctor network? I just cut my finger open. I got a call like that about 3 months ago. I was like, oh yeah, let me check real quick. Just popped out my computer, boom, right there and then. I think like for a lot of people, the best way to reach me at is going to be obviously my social media. I run, it's NP Health Insurance. I got tons of good Google reviews on my page. I got my office down here in North Miami, but I actually just relocated up here to Deerfield Beach. But I basically have all my contact information. You can feel free to reach out to me via there.
Yep, and we're gonna have all that on the YouTube in the description. We'll have all Michael's contact information, links to the social media. We'll have all that located inside the description. And Michael, what, just for our listeners that maybe aren't watching this on YouTube or listening to it, how can they find you on Instagram and Facebook?
Yeah, it's going to be NP Health Insurance, or if you're if it's your desk right now, it's just 612-965-2432. That is my number. You just call me up. I can help you right then and there, or text me. Those are the main reasons to reach me. But NP Health Insurance, if you look that up on Google, you'll find me. Again, my name is Michael Freese. Kind of like Freezy Pop or a lot of these other names. But that's the main way to reach me.
Perfect. Well, Michael, I appreciate you coming on the show today. It's been a wealth of information. I learned some things today. Hopefully our listeners have learned some things today, and would love to have you back here. I know open enrollment is still going full steam ahead. And I appreciate you taking time today and coming on the show, and we'll see you here again real soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was great talking with you guys, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Perfect. Thanks again. Well, I'd like to thank Michael again for being on the show, and what a wealth of information that was. And, please reach out to Michael, straight ahead for any questions regard to health insurance. And, it's just such a wealth of knowledge for such a young man to have such a great wealth of knowledge in the healthcare industry and everything that is related to that. His links are on the YouTube channel in the description. And he did mention his Instagram and his telephone number. So once again, please feel free to reach out to him directly. Well, I hope you have enjoyed today's podcast. Have a great weekend. I look forward to next week and what it brings. And we will see everyone next week. Thank you, and I am out.
Thank you for listening to the 1715 Treasure Coast Financial Wellness Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend who might like it. And please rate, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to contact us, find more information, or if you'd like to keep up with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn, check out our website at www.tdwealth.net. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.